Greetings, everyone, on the sci-fiction awesomeness. My name is Owen Cotter, and you're watching SciFiction on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Today, we're going to have an amazing guest. His name is Glen Henderson. He's an author, speaker, coach. He's got a cool book that he's promoting today. It's a really interesting book. Let me go over and show you a little bit about it. If you want to find out about that book, you can go to glentrekbook.com. And I'll go here to the Amazon page. We've got his book. It's called All I Need to Know About Success I Learned from Star Trek. This is the Kindle edition. They've also got some other editions as well as physical. It's basically the overall synopsis of this book. I'm going to let him talk more in depth about it as he comes onto the broadcast. Since it began over 50 years ago, Star Trek has fascinated us with forward-looking science, thrilled us with stories of heroes and villains, and made us think with social commentary ahead of our time. This book takes the journey back to the days of Captain Kirk, Spock, and crew, and we learn how to work with a team, accomplish your goals, when to fight for what to fight for what you believe, and when not to. The one thing that is the building block of all success and achievement, what your business really is, no matter what you do for a living. So it's a really interesting book. I read the whole thing. It was absolutely amazing. It has a lot of very good lessons in it that people can learn about pretty much everything from, how to work in the business field to you name it, and just in real life relationships with people, and using Star Trek as a lens and the lessons taught and also some of Next Gen too, because the book focuses on both TNG and TOS, the original series. So we're going to bring on Glen here shortly. I want to go over a few news items. We will be at San Diego Comic-Con 2024 coming up here in next Wednesday's preview night. So that's going to be pretty cool. We will be there all weekend long, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then after that, on Sunday, we're going to kick it on down to Vegas. A few days later, August 1st through the 4th, will be the STLV 58-year mission Star Trek theme event at the Rio Hotel All and Suites in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll be doing that as well. For people that are just joining us, my name is Owen C. Cotter. We're going to be bringing on Glen here shortly. We've got his book link here. Glen Henderson, glentrekbook.com is the book link. Glen Henderson is his name. He's an author, speaker, coach, a jack of all trades, super cool guy. Going to bring him on here shortly to talk about his book and what he's got going on. He, I believe, is also going to be at the Star Trek event in Las Vegas this year. So we look forward to seeing him again as we did last year. We'll be back covering that event. Really looking forward to Comic-Con. Got lots of goodies. We're getting set up for going down there to cover all kind of stuff. Can't really talk about some of its NDA kind of type stuff until the Embargo Act, and some of the items. But we'll be going there as well. I believe Glen's on the broadcast here. Let me bring him on here.
Hey, what's up, Owen?
How's it going, Glen? How's your day going, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself? I caught you in a sentence.
Doing good. We're doing good. We're gearing up for all kind of events. We're going to Star Trek and Comic-Con for 4 or 5 days. So we're doing that. Yeah, next week. Yeah.
So I will be seeing you at the convention at the Rio in a couple of weeks.
Rio Hotel, All in Suites, beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. That's right.
There you go. Excellent.
That's awesome. I was going over everybody your book here. Yeah, you've got Glen Trek Book. Your website's there, glentrekbook.com, and you've got All I Need to Know About Success I Learned from Star Trek. Go a little bit about yourself for the fans. Like, what's your background? I know you've done a lot of stuff an author. You're a speaker. You're a coach. But everything.
Yeah. I've often said that one of these days I'm going to go to an office supply store and buy one of those 500-page spiral notebooks, sit down, and I'm going to write down every job I've ever had. I hope that one notebook will be enough.
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, most people can't tell from my speaking voice, from my accent, that I was actually born and raised in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Believe that? Yeah. So, I grew up in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And where this all connects to what we're probably going to be talking about today, I was always kind of a nerd as a kid.
Me too.
Growing up, my favorite books, you believe this, my favorite books to read in grade school were the World Book Dictionary,
Okay.
and the World Book Encyclopedia.
Those are good.
Every day I would just grab one of them after dinner. I would just grab one of them and start reading. And there was the whole, it was fascinating to me. Words were always interesting to me, looking up words, their definitions, the origins, where they came from. And then I'd grab one of the volumes of the encyclopedia and start getting into that and just looking at the pictures and all these far. As a matter of fact, one time in third grade, I actually lied to my third grade teacher because we were talking about, I never will forget this, we were talking about the Pan American Highway in Mexico. She was telling us all about it. And I raised my hand and I said, I've been there. Yeah, she I think I got sent to the headmaster's office for lying or something. Here was the thing. I had read so much about the Pan American Highway and about Mexico and about Central and South America and all of these things that in my mind, I had been there.
Well, it makes sense. You've been there in the reading in the sense of that.
Oh, absolutely. Now, more to our topic today. I remember exactly where I was on September 8th, 1966. You believe I'm actually old enough to...
I got to shake this off too.
Yeah, you and me both, brother. So, I was there because we had a big console TV in our dining.
The big wood panel ones, the big ones.
Wood panel console. I think it was still black and white though. We weren't
probably. They didn't come out with color TVs till a little bit later, like mainstream, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And so I remember seeing this thing. These are the voyage, space, the final frontier. That's right. All of this to me was just like dazzling. I was dazzled. That's the only word I can think of as a kid. To all of these astronauts, these space people traveling, and the spaceship zooming all over the place. The green skin, pointy ears, and the creatures and the human beings were aliens to me.
Yeah.
In the show, and it was because they were traveling to all of these different far-flung planets and galaxies and meeting all of these different people. And that was what I wanted to do.
For sure.
I seriously, as a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut and not just, oh, kid, I want to be a fireman. I want to be right. I actually applied. My first college that I was accepted to was Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Florida.
Oh, wow.
I was going to get jets and go fly and do the program and become an astronaut. For some reason, I ended up becoming a professional musician, which is a whole other story. But even though I did not choose space or aerospace as a career path, I remained absolutely fascinated with Star Trek. And not just fascinated, inspired.
Right.
Is a better word. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. The people you come across along the way and the sort of connections that you make. I learned only recently that my brother, we never ever talked about this in life. My brother, turns out, is almost as big a Star Trek fan as I am.
Nice.
And always has been. He can quote lines of dialogue, and he knows the shows and everything else. So that was kind of cool to connect on that level. What was I saying? About as years have gone by, done all sorts of different things. Spent most of my working career as a professional musician, singer, and entertainer. I've worked in sales. I actually worked in IT, got to work for Apple for a little while, which was phenomenal. Fantastic. And I could go down the whole list. Here was the common thread for me. What we're talking about. As time went by, and as I looked back with a bit more perspective on my life, I came to realize that most of the important lessons I've learned about things like hard work, professionalism, sacrifice, teamwork, struggle, victory and defeat, life, death, love, the nature of friendship, family. So many of these lessons I learned from somewhere in Star Trek. You may have seen a little something there. It flashed into my mind. One of the important lessons that I learned was about telling the truth.
Right. Yeah, it was in the book. Yeah.
Yes. Chapter 6, the
Mhm.
first duty. It was one of my favorite. Might have been my favorite chapter to write.
That was a great chapter. I like that one.
It was
I like the last one too. Was pretty good as well.
the last chapter.
That's powerful, man.
Yes, from the undiscovered country.
Mhm, mhm.
I realized that what I needed to do.
Mhm.
I had to, some certain things come across in your life, and you realize, yeah, I have to do this.
Right.
What I needed to do was to sit down and share
Mhm.
on paper some of the things that I have learned, some of the insights that I've gained from Star Trek, and hopefully in a way that would make the stories and the first principles, as I call
Mhm.
them, accessible even to a person who's never even heard of Star
Right.
Trek,
Right.
let alone a big enthusiast like us.
Right.
Because I cannot tell you how many times
Mhm.
friends, acquaintances, people close to me have said, Star Trek? Isn't that just one of those corny sci-fi shows?
Well, that's one of the most intellectual, forward-thinking science fiction series of all time,
More about that in a minute.
man.
um, oh yeah, that's one of those corny. Oh, remember all those silly styrofoam boulders that were so? Oh, yeah, okay, you're absolutely right. And most people may or may not know, for example, that the very first interracial kiss in the
Mhm.
history of network television took place on an episode of Star Trek.
Yep.
Yep.
What was the
Episode
one with Alexander and Nichelle Nichols? Yeah.
from the original series, the third season, I believe it was. The episode is called Plato's
By those
Stepchildren.
stepchildren.
Really terrific episode. And it's not just the interracial thing. There are themes in that
Yep.
episode about tyranny,
Mm-hmm.
about coercion and force, forcing one civilization, forcing its will upon another, and about what makes us unique
Right.
as individuals, and the respect that's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely required between people, among people, if we're going to live in a civilized society. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. It's a
Star Trek,
powerful episode for
man.
sure.
Star Trek. And
Yeah.
so what I wanted to do was take some of those lessons, share them in a way that a person didn't need to understand
Right.
or know all of the franchises and the characters and the storylines. They could just read this one chapter
Mhm.
about this one idea and
Right.
say, hey, you know what? That makes sense. And here's a way that maybe you can use
Mhm.
this principle and apply it in your life or in your business, relationships,
Right.
whatever it is. That chapter we were talking about, the first duty. I'm gonna do. Can I? Nobody
Go
will
ahead.
mind. Spoiler alert! Spoiler
Spoiler
alert!
alert.
Yeah, we're talking about one chapter from the book. This episode, the first duty, is actually taken from the Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
Author's note: this first book takes themes from the original series and the Next Generation. Just so you know. This one has to do with Wesley Crusher as the central character. Don't say it. Don't say it. I don't everybody knows. He is at Starfleet Academy.
Mhm.
And as Captain Picard and crew, Captain Picard has been invited to come and give the commencement address at Starfleet Academy, comes to learn that there's been a terrible accident. A cadet has been killed
Mm-hmm.
in a flying accident.
Right.
Wesley Crusher is involved. I'm not going to give it all away, but I'll give you sort of the bare bones of it. Wesley Crusher is involved. He and his squadron were involved with this deadly accident. And then Wesley is pressured to cover up the facts, cover up the truth of what happened. And of course, you know that Captain Picard is going to figure this out,
Right.
that they're covering up the truth. And the scene where in the episode where Captain Picard confronts Wesley Crusher with what he has learned is, to me, and one of the clearest expositions I've ever heard
Right.
on what truth is
For sure.
and how we should how we need to live our lives on the basis of truth. Captain Picard says to him, he says, the first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, whether it's scientific truth or historical truth or personal truth. It is the guiding principle upon which Starfleet is based. And if you can't, he says to Wesley, if you can't bring yourself to tell the truth about what happened, then you don't deserve to wear that uniform.
It's a powerful episode, man.
And then sitting back and thinking about this, I realized if you're in sales and you're talking with a potential customer, a potential client, I could, as the salesman, I could shade the truth a little bit. I could cut a little corner on what my product will or won't do, and it might get me the sale. And what will that do to my relationship with this client going forward once they find out that I have shaded the truth a little bit? I'll tell you a story, actually applied in my own life, this thing about the truth. Several years ago, I was at a party someplace. It was at an outdoor pub type of thing. And I saw a guy walking across over on the other side of the area. I knew that he was married to, or engaged to be married to, a good friend of mine.
Okay.
Obviously, she wasn't. He was there at the pub with a woman, not his fiance. This was clearly not a business meeting.
Right.
What am I to do? Do I just keep my lip zipped, not say anything, and just, hey, listen, it's none of my business, not my relationship, right? But this lady and I, with whom I was very close friends, I actually decided to call her and tell her what was going on. I told her what I saw.
Right.
Listen, I don't know what I'm looking at here exactly, but I'm seeing your fiance here, so-and-so. He's with this woman. I don't know who this woman is, but it doesn't appear to me that they are in a platonic relationship. Do you know that my friend got absolutely furious, screamed at me, cursed me out, hung up the phone? And then later, she herself found out that her fiance had been cheating on her and broke off the relationship. She didn't speak to me for months.
Oh, wow.
But then later on, when she found out, she said, she reached out to me and she said, Glenn, I am so sorry that I, reacted the way I did. Obviously, you were right. And looking back on it, I appreciate your telling me the truth.
Right. That's good.
So what's the moral of the story for me for this chapter was just tell the truth.
Right.
Whatever the situation is, tell the truth. And that way you don't have to tell another lie later to cover up the lie that you did.
It's like digging you a hole at that point. Just keep digging and digging down.
What was that old saying? It was Jesse the Body Ventura back in the day, one of those old pro wrestlers. He once said, somebody asked him, how he'd been so successful. He was the governor of Minnesota and all of these types of things. How did you come to be so successful in business and politics? He says, very simple. Always tell the truth.
Right.
If you always tell the truth, he said, if you always tell the truth, you don't need a good memory.
For sure.
Ooh. I think that put that in the chapter as well. But anyway,
that's a great saying. I like that.
The point is, there are absolute veins, nuggets, pockets of gold in Star Trek, all over Star Trek. You just got to know where to look.
Right.
And for some reason, I've kind of started to develop the habit of looking for them.
Okay.
And so this first book was my, call it my love letter to Star Trek with a few life lessons thrown in. I know how profoundly my life, my business life, my career, and everything else have been influenced by what I learned uh, as if I were sitting aboard the bridge of the Enterprise. And so sharing people those lessons, sharing those stories with people has been really, really satisfying for me.
Very cool. You had mentioned a while, maybe like a month ago, that you're working on some new projects down the pipeline. Can you mention some of those, maybe?
As a matter of fact, what time is it now?
It's
Uh,
2:15 now.
2:15 Central Time, and it's Thursday. Yes, Thursday. 48 hours ago,
Okay.
I finally finished the first draft of my next Star Trek book.
Nice.
So it's yeah, we'll be going into editing and pre-launch and everything else within the next week or so. And I expect it to be available on pre-order by the time we arrive at the convention
Nice.
at the Rio. So that information will be up there. Does anybody mind if I share the title of the new?
Oh, feel free
Yeah,
to.
it's this one. It's a little bit different
Hmm?
um, feel to it from the first book, because the first book I took sort of a particular format,
Hmm?
and this I did in aid of making the principles from the episodes and the films, making them more accessible. As my old college president used to say, take a truth and put shoe leather on it so people can, so people
Right.
can walk around it and
Right.
really get it. So there was that. This book uh, takes a little bit deeper dive
Okay.
into, I think, into some of those, again, first principles
Mhm.
from the episodes. This book takes from the original series,
Okay.
Next Generation, and a little bit from Voyager.
Very cool.
Um, and so it was interesting to me as I was thinking through how to share, how to present
Mhm.
my thoughts in this next book.
Right.
A lot of it was informed by some of my own personal experiences. Your viewers, listeners may not be aware. I don't know if we've talked about this, Owen. I'm actually a now a 1 year, yeah, 1 year on cancer conqueror. I don't like to use the word
That's
cancer
great.
survivor. Thank you. I'm 1 year um, remission, cured, cancer free, free from stage 4 prostate cancer. And
Congratulations.
thank you very much. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be writing a book about that soon
Very.
enough.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mike could get you an endorsement. My dad's actually one of the top cancer doctors in the country.
is that so? Well,
Got his lifetime achievement award like a few months ago.
whoa, we may need to have a conversation, except offline.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So I met so many people during that experience and other things who refer to their their experience with cancer, for example, as their journey,
Mhm.
which I totally get. And then it think of other people who've taken on projects, who've had struggles
Mhm.
of their own, and a life, perhaps a life path that they've chosen where there was some real work involved in making things happen, and continually moving forward on the road to what one wants to accomplish.
Right.
And so I found, obviously, that even some of those ideas about pursuing your goals, about seeking to better yourself, seeking to lift up the people around us,
Right.
are right there in Star Trek too.
Mhm.
And so sharing some of those things, deeping into some of the episodes that may or may not be as well known as other one. In the first book, obviously I had to do a chapter on the trouble with triples.
Oh, that's a great episode.
This one, some of the chapters deal with episodes that may have some little heavier, little darker themes. For example, one of the chapters deals with a third season, original series third season episode called "Let That Be Your Last Battlefield." Racism, anyone?
Yeah, that's the one where they had the guy they invented again. Well, I don't spoil it, but there was the guy that played the Riddler, wasn't he in there?
Frank Gorshin.
Frank
Gorshin,
Yeah.
a legendary
Yep.
a comedian, impressionist,
Yep.
and one of the I call him. He was one of the original kings of Las Vegas, along with the Rat Pack and all of those guys. Oh yeah, Frank Gorshin. So there are themes in that episode, as an example, where Gene Roddenberry, one of the visionaries of all time, he obviously wanted to make a comment about race hatred. That episode, by the way, was filmed in 1969.
During the civil rights movement, right? Yeah.
But obviously, the way things may have been at that time, you couldn't just say racism bad. You couldn't just talk, use real names. So he actually used two characters in this episode to illustrate the absolute folly, the absolute waste of race hatred.
Right.
Now you got to go watch the episode to find out what I'm talking about.
Using the lens of science fiction and Star Trek.
Using the lens of science fiction. And so that chapter was, in a way, sort of difficult to write. Not because, I have any particular, resentment about around racism, but just because I wanted to share it in the principle in kind of the same oblique way that Gene Roddenberry did in the beginning.
Right.
And there's another episode, one of the other chapters in the book is actually taken from Voyager. Getting around to all of this. What in the world is the book called already?
What is? Can you name the name of it or
the book? Sure, absolutely. The book is going to be called "It's Not About the Destination: Life Lessons from Star Trek."
Oh wow! Nice. I love it.
Yeah, it's not about the destination, and those of your Voyager fans may be able to figure out where that title came from.
That's right.
So, yeah, again, I expect that the book will be available for pre-order by the time we get to convention, first weekend in August, and then
August 1st to the 4th, I believe.
Yep,
right? Yeah.
August 1st to the 4th. My lovely bride, Paula, and I will be there. We'll be have them available for sign and selfies and all that sort of fun stuff. So,
do you know where your booth's gonna be out on the floor? Where you're gonna be based out of?
We'll be on the exhibit floor. Not exactly sure where we'll be geographically.
Remember last year, y'all were across from our friends at Space Command. They're doing
the
great Solar War news.
That's right. That's right. Mark with the Mark. Yeah, yep. And our booth this year, our table will be one of those tables around the outside against the wall. So
very cool.
So yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
It's gonna be awesome. There's like 170 or 65 guests at the event this year.
Woo!
That is well over 150.
Holy moly!
That's including everybody from like astronauts to like Ronald D. Moore to people from like every aspect. They're having a lot of anniversaries too. I think it's like the 40th of like Star Trek 3 or something like that. There's several anniversaries of the movies and stuff.
Yeah, it's the 40th anniversary of what is this? 2024. It's going to be the 40th anniversary of
one of the early
Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan, yeah.
I think
82, 80, something like that.
84, yeah.
84. So, they're on the 80s, and then you've got, I think, one of the there's like a 25th or a 30th of one of the next gen films. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. You know what's funny? Every time I was just watching an episode yesterday. In fact, it's one of the episodes that's covered in this second book.
Okay.
And every time I watch an episode, I think, know what? There's a chapter in there somewhere. There's a chapter in, and so I'll just grab my notebook and I'll start taking notes. So grab a voice recorder and spit out a few comments and everything else. I think what I'm kind of getting around to on that, what this is telling me is that there's probably one or two more books up in here somewhere.
Nice.
I'll need to.
They're great. I mean, I love the first one. I was just binging it, just reading it from chapter to chapter, man.
Man,
Powerful stuff too. Very powerful. It applies in a lot of areas of people's life, entrepreneurship, you name it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. As a matter of fact, right after the first book was published, I did a podcast interview with a friend of mine who he told me during the interview, he said, Glenn, before this conversation, he says, I'd never really thought much about Star Trek. I didn't hate it. I just, it's one of those old shows, people like it. So what, whatever. He said, but then I read your book, obviously preparing for this interview. He says, I read your book and I was so fascinated. He said, I actually went back and binge watched the whole original series.
Nice.
And I kind of sat back. My work is done here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And what's so satisfying, I really appreciate your comments. And what was really satisfying for me from this first book, so many people that I've spoken with who read the book and they've said to me things like, Glenn, yeah, I'd heard about Star Trek. I'd even watched, some of the episodes and stuff. And he says, people will say, I had no idea that there were all of these principles, that all of these things, you could find them somewhere in Star Trek.
Right.
Or, he wasn't, my friend with the podcast wasn't the only one who says, I was so interested. I'm going to go back and watch some Star Trek now.
Right. And plus, a lot of the people now that are like, younger people especially may have not seen the original series. They may have seen more of maybe like Voyager, Enterprise, or some of the newer shows, and they can go back and learn about stuff they haven't seen before.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Owen, because somebody asked me recently, why did I write the first book? Right. Why write the second book? Mm-hmm. Why all the Star Trek stuff? Why are you doing this? And the answer was very clear to me. It was not just the lessons that I've learned.
Right.
The more important purpose for me, in a way around this, is that, just as you've said, there are so many people for whom the original series, sometimes even the next generation, was before their time.
Right.
That they've never seen these original stories. They talk about
35 years ago or so, just Next Gen alone.
There's a lot of people out here. You say Captain James T. Kirk, they're thinking Chris Pine,
right?
Which is great, which is fine.
Or the new guy on Strange New Worlds, or what?
Yes, that's right. And that's all. And that's all fine. I have no problem with that.
Well, the new guy, Paul Wesley's his name, right?
Paul Wesley. That's right. The thing for me is this. Mm-hmm. I grew up with the original series. Right. Later, the Next Generation. Those stories helped to shape my life. Right. And so I feel an obligation to do my part to help keep those original stories alive.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah. And so I think there will be a few. But as I sit here now, I think it's very likely there will be a couple more.
You've got a lot of material there to cut. You got like 60 years. Was it like 2 more years? It'll be 60 years. Something like
that. Yeah. And it's 60 years, and just from the original series and the Next Generation, you've got 258 episodes.
Yep.
And there's 3 years.
70 something on TOS.
79 episodes in the original series over 3 years. 179, 7 years of the Next Generation. Mm-hmm. How much of
20 a season? 20 something a season.
How much of a geek am I actually know that number?
It's a lot.
Yeah, so that's over 250 episodes. Mm-hmm. And how many books is that? So to me, this is truly a labor of love.
Very cool.
Might even say, I don't know. Just don't let my mama hear me say this, but it's almost a sacred trust for me, because so many people just don't know about the nature, the depth of the friendship between William Shatner's Kirk and Leonard Nimoy's Spock. People just don't know. There are people who just don't know about
It's
that.
like the triple when you got McCoy. I mean, like real life too. They're a really
Exactly.
good.
Kirk, Spock, McCoy, William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelly. Yeah. And the connection between the three of
Right.
the fifth movie, the fifth original series movie, The Final Frontier.
We're at the Yosemite or Yellowstone Park at the
Yellowstone Park. And at the end, okay, spoiler alert.
Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, directed by William
The
Shatner.
Final Frontier. There's a scene in that movie where the three of them are sitting around a campfire at night.
Yeah.
And one of them says something like, it was Kirk. He says, in context of some conversation they're having, he says, men like us don't have families.
Right.
Okay. Later on, right near the end of the film, around the same campfire, similar sort of scene.
Right.
They're mentioning about something or other. And McCoy says to Kirk, he says, I thought you said men like us don't have families. Right. Kirk looks at the two of them and he says, I was wrong.
Powerful, yeah.
So just right there,
right.
Is that or is that not a chapter in a possible future book? So for me, there is so much for people to learn, so much for me to share right off the screen. I cannot wait. I'm telling you right now, I cannot wait to write the chapter around Star Trek First Contact.
Oh, that's a great movie. Yeah.
I've actually already started jotting down some notes around that.
That's a fantastic. That's one of the best. All the Star Treks. Probably one of the best TNG films for sure.
It's my wife's that and for the
whales.
Voyage Home with the whale.
The whale's great.
Those two are my wife's favorite films. Now, I should tell you something about my wife and her supreme intelligence and flexibility of my wife is English.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you. Yeah.
And as such, she is a massive Doctor Who fan.
Nice.
Her whole life. Fantastic, right? I actually went to a comic palooza here in Houston once, and I got a Doctor Who autograph for her.
Whose was it? Whose was it?
Say again now? It was John Barrowman.
Oh, nice. And face above.
Yes, so I got that. She was thrilled. But she grew up on Doctor Who. Never even knew about Star Trek, really. Never knew much about it. Yeah, guess what? She's a big-time Star Trek fan now.
There's a lot of positive stuff, too, in Doctor Who as well.
Yeah. I'll say she knows a lot more about Star Trek than I do about Doctor Who. So she's up on me on that, ahead of me on that score. There are people all over the world who, if we could get a little bit of the word out about friendship,
right,
war and peace, understanding these sorts of things, there might be a few less fistfights. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And so, yeah, to me, this is really fun. It's a labor of love. I just absolutely love. Star Trek is one of those franchises, particularly the first four. Original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. I'll go back and watch episodes unlimited times. I can't even tell you how many times.
Now they're all on Paramount HD. I'll use binge them all you want.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I cannot tell you. I probably couldn't count the number of times that I have watched the episode from the original series 3rd season called Spectre of the Gun.
Oh, that's great, man.
It's a great episode. And that one to me is all about mindset, attitude. Yeah, you got to go read the book to find out about that.
That's right.
But there's so much there, man. There is so much there.
Have you watched any of the new stuff like Strange New Worlds or any of that?
Yes.
New stuff?
Yes. Paula and I really enjoyed. I'm really enjoying Strange New Worlds. We really liked Picard.
Oh, season 3 was fantastic, man.
Oh my goodness, season 3 was something else. I haven't gotten. Oh, by the way, there's a thread from the Next Generation through to Picard. You know what it is?
Oh, nice.
Wesley Crusher. And
No
that's all I have to say about that. So I've watched them. Really good. People ask me all the time. This is another interesting topic. Well, I'll talk about it. You'll tell me if it's interesting. People say, well, Glenn, what do you think of the new movies? You know, the Chris Pine and the this and the that. And I say, you know, and this is just like one man's opinion.
Right.
The new films are fantastic.
Yeah.
The special effects are out of this world. The acting, Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, Carl
Urban. That's right.
Holy moly, what a bones. And then Simon Pegg has got terrific actors. The plot lines are good. I go on. And I end up having to say, I really have only one problem with these films. And I know it's just my problem. The only problem I have with these films is that, for me, William Shatner is Kirk, and Leonard Nimoy is Spock. And thus it shall be for all time, for me. I can absolutely enjoy and appreciate the new films. You give me a choice, I'm going back and watch The Wrath of Khan.
Nice.
Again.
That's great, man. That movie's a fantastic film, man. Absolutely. That was
In my opinion,
of all sci-fi movies, the best sequels ever, to be honest with you.
In my opinion, that is the best Star Trek film, including the new ones. And you know what? There's a little bit of a principle in there too, a little spiritual principle in there.
Also, I always thought about this too. That Star Trek Nemesis was kind of like the Wrath of Khan of the TNG series, if you think about it. Because like Data had, transferred his, and then he dies just like Spock, but did he die? But the thing is like it deals with similar themes, battle sequence. There's a lot of stuff in there.
It's so interesting you say that, and you're right. Just thinking about that, it reminds me of that saying that a quote from the Bible says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends."
And Spock and Data sacrificed themselves in the movie.
Funny thing, I saw a meme on Facebook recently.
I love memes.
In the spring, it says, "Happy Easter." This weekend, we celebrate the life of a man who sacrificed. We celebrate a man who sacrificed his life to save his friends and then rose again from the dead to the joy of many. And it's a picture of Kirk and Spock.
That's great. Solid gold, dude. That's awesome.
Sorry, I got to look for the lightning bolt. I don't want to. But yeah, I think that for me is just an example of Star Trek isn't just corny science fiction.
Right.
It isn't just ray guns and aliens and Kirk gets the girl again. It isn't just that. It's in some ways it's an example of art imitating life.
Right.
Because there's so much about the human condition,
for sure, that's
addressed. It's so many different levels in Star Trek. And again, for me, you asked me my specialty. It's those first 4 series, and there's going to be quite a bit more, I think, that I'll have to say and share around those original. The other chapter I'm really looking forward to is one from Deep Space Nine.
Ooh, I was going to ask you about this. There's a Deep Space Nine.
Deep DS9 fans will not be the least bit surprised to hear that there will be a chapter in a future book on In the Pale Moonlight.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you DS9 fans, you know who you are, and you know what I'm talking about.
That's right.
So,
speaking of Deep Space Nine, I was thinking of an episode. I watched some clips of it not too
yeah.
long ago. The one where Cisco's on the Defiant, and what was the guy? He was part of like the
Maquis?
Maquis, and he was like, "You betrayed your uniform." Now, that was a great episode because,
I
like,
forget the name of that episode, but the theme of that episode was taken from Les Miserables.
yes,
with Cisco seemingly playing the part of Javert, Inspector
yeah,
Javert.
he launches the stuff on that planet where they have to evacuate the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah,
Powerful stuff. And in fact, there's a lot. You're making me think about this now, Owen. There's a lot in Deep Space Nine around the theme of how far would you go? How far are you willing to go to get what you want? How far are you willing to go to accomplish your goal? Does the end justify the means? There's a lot of that in Deep Space Nine. There's so much intrigue. I didn't really like Deep Space Nine when I first started watching it.
I didn't get to see too much of it. They had ended TNG, and I didn't get too much into that till later on. I watched the whole thing. It was amazing after I watched it.
Well, you know what I did? I just kind of cheated. I went and bought the whole things on Apple TV, and now and then download them. So now
download them now and have them forever, as long as the digital.
Exactly. Now I got them forever. But there's so much in Deep. I was going to say I didn't really care for Deep Space Nine when I first started. I thought it was too much like talking heads, too much backroom intrigue, and this sort of thing.
So you got the Defiant, got off the space station, a little bit cruised.
Well, that helped. That did help. Then there are themes in there of human. Okay, human.
Right.
I absolutely love the character of Worf.
Yeah, amazing. Well, he's in the most episodes of all of TNG and in Deep Space Nine too. Of all Star Trek, Modern Trek, I believe.
Let's hear it from Michael Dorn. That's right. And he also appears in The Undiscovered Country.
Yeah, he's the grandfather of the guy defending Kirk and Spock.
Yes, the defense attorney. That's right. Good. Very good. So I love this character of Worf and this notion of honor above all else. Well, you know what? U.S. Marines, baby. Hoorah!
Yeah, pretty much. Honor, literally, yeah.
Honor. What's the saying? Death before dishonor.
Right.
I mean, what more apt description of a Klingon?
Powerful stuff.
The Klingon heart. Death before dishonor.
Even in that episode with Shavir, the one I mentioned.
Yes.
Very tempted not to launch the photons on that planet.
Yeah, absolutely. But and again, it kind of brings back the question, right? Is it the right thing? Is the right thing to do always the right thing to do? Where do you draw the line? How far are you willing to go to accomplish do the ends justice? Yeah, you can look for a couple of Deep Space Nine chapters.
That's good. Really good.
For the future.
What about Enterprise? What are your thoughts on Enterprise?
Must confess, I haven't actually watched much of Enterprise.
Check it out. It's amazing.
So I hear. I hear it.
Some good stuff.
And I'm definitely going to watch them. I also am very, very much aware of that saying from one of the Dirty Harry movies, right? A man has got to know his limitations. I know what I can specialize in.
Right.
I will certainly get deeper into them, the ones that I haven't seen or written about.
You mentioned the war premise and peace premise. Season 3 of that series really gets in. It's a whole, they call it the Zindi arc, and it deals with like this whole kind of they're going against them. It's a fantastic, it's a whole series, but I mean, it's a
Okay.
fantastic season. It crests into the very beginning of season 4.
Oh, interesting.
It deals with everything. There's one episode called a mirror darkly, which
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So you remember the episode where they come across the Defiant Constitution class Defiant, and
Yeah.
Kirk's kind of fizzling out in the spacesuit, fading off into some other area. In this episode, they show you where the Defiant goes.
Ooh.
It goes 100 years in the past in the mirror universe in the time of Enterprise.
Oh, now
And
that's
it's a 2-part episode series.
And by the way, that original series episode was called Web of the
Web of
Tholian.
the Tholian Web, yeah. The Tholian Web episode
Mhm.
where they show where that ship went. And Kirk would have gone there too with it if they hadn't got him out.
That is interesting. See, now you got me curious.
And the Tholians are in this one too, man. They're in
No
Tholians.
way.
Yeah. They have the Enterprise in XO1 is actually the ISS Enterprise. The Imperial.
Mirror.
Yeah, mirror. It's all connected in the mirror universe. Yeah.
That's not. See, now you really got me curious.
Oh, the episode A Mirror.
Yep.
There's that famous thing at the end what he tells Spock.
In every revolution, there is one man with a vision.
With a
Oh, I love that
statement, man.
Woo! And then, about as close to a cheer as you're going to get from Spock, he says, "Captain Kirk, I shall consider it."
Wasn't it in the lore, like in the Trek lore, that he went on because I think in the comics too, they explored this, where he had gone on to kind of like a revolutionist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There is a series of Trek novels.
Novels
that deal with that as well. A couple that deal directly with what Spock does after Kirk leaves and his interaction. It's really interesting.
He inspired him, to be honest with you, on that.
Yeah. And that one really explores the nature of the mirror relationship between Spock and Emperor Tiberius.
Right, Emperor Tiberius.
That is Kirk. So there's a whole other like sort of alternate universe there. I used to read a lot of Star Trek novels, and that was where I really got some much deeper insight into the bond between Kirk and Spock.
Right. There's some great stories in the comics. They actually did a mirror universe version of the TNG era comics.
Oh, now that's
good stuff right there.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's that was the comic. So they need to go talk to Spock, and they send Data in.
Ooh,
some stuff goes down in
the
comic.
Well, that's another chapter that I was thinking about putting in this book. It'll just have to go into the next one from the Next Generation 2-part episode called Unification.
Mm-hmm. That's the one with Spock, yeah.
Where Ambassador Spock.
Spock.
No, we can't give them all away.
Well, they got JJ Verse mentioned that too in the first one.
Yeah, and that there's another example in there where Spock and Data meet.
Right. And the ending of the second part, well, I'm not going to spoil what it's about, but between him and there's the mind meld part at the end.
Yes. There's
powerful stuff.
Oh boy, there are layers to that episode.
Yeah. Sarek's in there as well as Dad and everybody's in
there. Yes, he is. He's in there, and man, you're just making me write more chapters.
It's great stuff. Those particular episodes are really good ones. Yeah.
They really, really are.
And that was Mark Leonard. He was the actual actor from the movies that played his dad in the TV.
Mark Leonard, the only actor I'm aware of who's played. No, I'm wrong. I'm trying to think. The only actor I'm aware of who's played a Vulcan, a Romulan, and a Klingon.
Yeah. Let's see, there's John Colicos. He only played 2 Klingons with the same Klingon, so I think that's right.
Yeah, John Colicos. Cool. That's a really great episode.
Oh yeah.
With John, where the first encounter with the Klingon.
Was that the Errand of Mercy or
Errand of Mercy? Great stuff. This is me sorry, Greatest Showman. Sorry, Hugh Jackman. This is, that is, you see every now and then the poll question comes up on Facebook. What topic could you talk about for 3 hours without stopping? Well, I can tell you right now, I could spend 3 hours on the social and philosophical exploration of the nature of the friendship between Kirk and Spock.
Awesome.
I could go on, and I could talk about all of these different episodes of Star Trek. And, for the episodes that I know, somebody could just throw an episode title at me, and I could probably come right back with 2 or 3 life lessons.
I like the chapter you did on City of the Edge of Forever. That was a great one.
Whoa! Yeah. That was in a way, the first exploration of this Deep Space Nine type principle of like, what are you prepared to do? How far are you prepared to go?
Right.
And that episode and that chapter was, in some ways, that was kind of tough for me to write, because it was the first time that we saw Kirk really almost broken.
Right.
As a man, not just as a captain, but as a man.
Right.
And it was the first and only time I'm aware that Captain Kirk ever uttered anything close to an obscenity.
Right.
On an episode.
Very end of the episode. So let's get out of here.
Yeah. We'll tell them. At the end of that episode, it's in the book anyway. At the end of that episode, after history has been saved and they're preparing to go back to the Enterprise, Uhura, says the captain, or on a communicator, it's the Enterprise calling. They want to know if we're ready to beam up. And Kirk barely looks around. He says, let's get the hell out of here. That's the only time. Now, later on in some of the films and such, his language becomes a bit more, he just makes more use of colorful metaphors.
Right.
But that was a really profound episode for me, too, because that was one where there was a very direct conflict. Kirk had to make a decision, maybe one of the most difficult decisions of his career. He had to decide between what he wanted and what he knew history required of him.
Right.
And I remember thinking, when I first watched that episode, if I had been Captain Kirk in that situation, what would I have done?
Right.
I had no idea. I had no idea at the time. Be honest with you, I'm still not sure.
Yeah. It's a very powerful episode. I mean, when McCoy went back, he changed time and everything.
Yes. What do you do? Which way do you go? I mean, if they hadn't gone back and at least tried, well then, I don't know. They would have been trapped on that planet with the Guardian of Forever for all time. And or they could have jumped through into another period in history and perhaps been able to live out their lives or whatever. Or would they go back? See, these are the questions that Trek.
One of the coolest episodes, talking about going back through portals and stuff. The one where on that planet, it was getting ready to go supernova and they had like a library where we could go through the portals and time travel back to every point in history on that planet.
All Our Yesterdays.
Yes, that was a really cool episode.
All Our Yesterdays. I think that was the second to last episode of season 3.
Yeah, it was almost the very end.
And that was where Spock and McCoy went back into the Ice Age.
Yep. And Kirk went to their version, like
medieval Victorian England or whenever it was. Yeah, the time of at the time of the Inquisition. Yeah. Which Salem witch trials. That's where they went. To the time of the
Salem witch trials. When he was in the Spock and McCoy were in the Ice Age.
And the Ice Age, and they encountered one of the most beautiful women in the history of Star Trek, Mariette Hartley, as Sarah Beth. I'll tell you, I had me a little crush as a kid. Big time crush.
She was like right up there with as beautiful as some of those Bond women from back in the day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a whole other conversation you could have. Who are the most beautiful women of Trek and of the original series or the Next Generation or whatever. Yeah.
That's awesome.
We have had, my wife and I have had, in that regard, we've
Mm.
had the incredible privilege of meeting some of the Trek actors and celebrities and so forth. And one thing comes to my mind immediately. Actually, two things. One, I'll mention one for my wife and then one for me.
Mm.
We were at a convention and we were taking some pictures and so forth, the photo ops and such.
Right.
And we got to meet and have a nice chat with Alexander Siddig.
Oh, wow, Bashir, yeah.
Bashir.
Yeah.
He's English.
Mhm.
His heritage, I think, is Egyptian, but he was born and raised in the UK. And Paula was just absolutely smitten with it. What an elegant, lovely gentleman. Really,
Great
really
actor, too. He's been all kinds of
terrific actor. And another one that stands out for me, we have also had the chance to meet some actors from the next generation and so forth. A couple of the favorites, some people that really kind of jump out in my mind. We got to meet Gates McFadden.
Oh, nice.
And
Beverly Crusher.
Beverly Crusher.
Dr. Beverly Crusher.
She is Dr. Beverly Crusher today.
Mm-hmm.
As I sit here, the woman is regal.
Mm-hmm.
How can I don't know any other way to put it. You look at her, you shake her hand, and we sit next to her, we have pictures and everything. She is the picture of elegance, grace. It's fantastic. Yeah. We got to meet, and I should share a little something about this. When we go to conventions, we have never gone into to an autograph line or a photo op or something and asked one of the celebrities to sign something, a piece of memorabilia, a memento or something. Thank you very much. Which fine. Right. Here's the thing: when we've gone to conventions in the past, what we've done is we took copies of my book that I had inscribed for the individual that we were going to meet. For example, one of the great examples, we're in line to get an autograph from George Takei.
Oh, nice.
Wonderful man. And we get up to the window, get up to the table, and he's saying, okay, well, his assistant is there. Well, what can we sign for you? Right. And I said, well, actually, Mr. Takei, we have a gift for you. Mm-hmm. What? You giving me some? Gave him an autographed copy of the book.
Nice.
And he looked at it and he seemed to be so pleased. He said to me, I'll never forget this. He said, Glenn, I won't even attempt to imitate his voice. My tongue will just fall through the floor. He said, Glenn, I believe that everyone in the world, everyone should do their part to help make the world a better place.
Oh, wow.
He says, with this book, you've done something tangible.
That's positive.
And I appreciate it. You know what he did? This was during the whole COVID craziness and everything, where people had masks and they had the big plastic shield in front of them. And he asked everybody, hey, is it okay with you guys? Yeah, no problem. He asked me to come around the side of the plastic shield. He took his mask off and posed so that I could take a picture with him.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It was very, very cool. And
Gold Press Latinum.
We're 10 bars, the Gold Press.
10 bars.
We have actually developed something like a friendship with a couple of actors. Robin Curtis.
Okay.
The second Lieutenant from The Search for Spock and The Voyage Home.
Right.
So the very first convention we went to, we met Robin Curtis. Okay. Had a lovely conversation with very, very nice lady. She's now living in upstate New York. Okay. And she has a very successful career as a realtor.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, she's doing great. So we met her, lovely chats and everything. And this is at the Rio. And then later that evening, we're walking through the lounge at the Rio. And we could see they have like a circular bar there in the center of
It's
the
like on the
of
back of
lobby.
the big
Yeah,
round. Yeah.
yeah, little bar in the center of the lobby.
There's a name for that area in there. The middle. It's
Yeah.
something like, God, man, I'm never forget.
Like a rotunda or something right
Yeah,
there.
it's like a big round there. Yeah.
Yep, you know what I'm talking about. So there's Robin. She's obviously sitting with her, entourage or friends and whatnot. And I said, "Honey, look, it's Robin Curtis. Let's say hello." Right. So we just kind of leaned over. "Hey, Robin, how you doing? Good to see you." And she said, "Glen, Paula, please come have a drink with us."
Nice.
Huh? Yeah. So we went, sat with them for a couple hours, met, hung out with their, the whole group, and had some great conversations and everything. And we thought, well, wasn't this wonderful?
Mhm.
We went to another convention more than a year later. I think it was the one in Chicago.
That's the one that Repop put on, or
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, Reed Pop. The Reed
I was
Pop
supposed to
convention.
go, but I had some schedule. I always really wanted to go to that. How was that?
It was really good.
Yeah,
Really, it's a very different feel from the creation sponsored events. Very, very good. And
it was like bigger. Or what do you mean by different feelings?
I'll just give you one example. The logistics were very different. At the creation events, some of the autographs with the celebrities, they have them in the main room there on the side.
Relax, it's like the vendors hall.
Yeah, in the main ballroom, sides of the stage, and then they have the exhibit hall where there's other autographs. Right. At the Reed Pop event, all of the autographs are in a separate room, in a huge exhibit hall by themselves, which is separate from the main theater.
That's interesting because the Star Wars Celebrations ones have been another flip of the coin. They've had them all in the vendors area, like at least several of the years I've been on the back wall. They have all the actors in the green room and all that. It's interesting.
That's the way it was at the Reed Pop.
Right.
There in the main theater where the talks were given there were no autographs.
Okay.
It seemed to us to be a little bit more efficiently organized. I'll put it that way. So we're at this convention in Chicago, and we see on the list of people who are going to be there, "Hey, look, honey, it's Robin Curtis. Let's go say hello." It's more than a year since we first met her
at the Rio.
Right? So we get in line, and there's like one person ahead of us in the line. They go up and they get their autograph, have their chat with Robin, and they pass across, out of eyesight, and we start to walk up and we say hi. She jumped out of her chair. "Glen, Paula, oh my God, it's so great to see you again, Mother." And I'm thinking to myself, in the first place, I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, she remembered us.
A year plus later, that's awesome, dude.
Yes, more than a year later, she remembered. And then a second thought occurred to me. And that thought was, this is what we have been hoping for as far as how things happen on our conventions.
Right.
On our attendance. We've never been interested in just wandering around getting autographs.
Right.
We have some swag. We've got some Trek swag. I have
every Trekkie does.
I'm working on the complete Star Trek wine collection and all of these kinds of things.
You got the Chateau Picard. Have you tried it?
I've got a bottle of the Chateau Picard. I haven't tried it yet.
I heard it's pretty good. So.
I'll let you know.
It's actually sourced, I believe, from the actual Chateau Picard.
France. Chateau Picard in France. I have 2 bottles of Klingon blood wine.
Nice.
I have a bottle of Cardassian Canar, and then I've got some other things.
They got the Star Trek whiskeys now, don't they? Or the bourbons or something?
Oh, I'm saving up my gold pressed platinum to get myself a bottle of
10 bars, 15 bars.
Get myself a bottle of James T. Kirk bourbon.
Did you know that last year Paul Wesley had mentioned that he has his own whiskey distillery?
Is that like that?
So? Yeah, he's got his own whiskey line or something that he does with his partner, business partner, or something.
I may need to go and say hello.
Yeah, he's interesting. I didn't get to talk to him much, but he seems pretty interesting, guys.
That is very cool. So anyway, Robin Curtis, and the other thing that I realized, Paula and I are not autograph hounds.
Right.
And I don't think I present as a Trekkie fanboy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And without meaning any disrespect to anyone
Of course.
who loves Star Trek, I'm not really so much interested in buying swag and getting stuff signed and all of that
Right.
as I am in the possibility
Mm.
of having conversations
Mm.
with Trek actors, celebrities, producers behind the scene, and maybe even creating a connection and developing a little. Paula and I are actually good friends with Natalia Noglich.
That name sounds
Who
really
the
good.
heck's Natalia Noglich?
Yeah,
The Next Generation, all around the
was
story.
she
All
the
around the
admiral?
world.
The admiral?
She was Admiral Nechayev.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she appears several times. And we actually met Natalia at that convention, at that Reed Pop convention in Chicago. And I said to her, I think this is what may have been part of what got her attention. I said to her, I have so much admiration for how you portrayed that character, Admiral Nechayev.
That's a great character.
Really? She said, what do you mean? I said, Admiral Nechayev was the only flag officer in Starfleet who ever went toe-to-toe with Jean-Luc Picard.
True.
and backed him down.
Backed him down.
Backed him down. Twice she did it.
That's true.
And so what strength of character. And she really appreciated it. And we got to chatting and everything. I've got a great picture of her. I think one of the pictures that we took, selfie we took of her is on my LinkedIn page or something. And we've maintained a conversation and a nice friendship over a couple of years now. Lovely lady.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So see, what I'm interested in is not the stuff.
Right.
The things. I've got stuff.
Right.
I'm probably going to get some more stuff.
Everybody does. Yeah. You got to get it.
And no problem. I intend to enjoy the stuff. And what I'm really interested in is relationships, connections with people. It would be, for example, like a great honor for me. Is this even possible? To somehow get invited to like sit way down at the end of the table at one of the panels at a convention or something like that.
Cool,
yeah. Star Trek and real life, how Star Trek applies to real, you know what I mean? Something.
Have you talked to like any of the people about setting up a panel like that? They probably could do something. There's authors too as well.
I haven't.
Authors roundtables?
Maybe. Ooh, now there's an idea. I bet you know more about that than I do. So let's
a little bit.
I bet you could, but listen, let's talk about that. Not because I want to be the big star or the celebrity, but because as far as I know, I'm sure there's somebody, but as far as I know, there aren't a lot of people digging deep into original series, Next Generation, and sharing some of those first.
Right.
Yeah. And there's important stuff to be said out of those.
Plus, the cool thing about that is it resonates on the frequency of the Roddenberry vision of the future. So I don't see why that wouldn't be something that they want to put in the programming and some of the events and stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, I would, like I say, if something like that could ever happen, I'd be on it.
Have you got one to Rod yet? I got him a copy of it.
No, I haven't. Note to
I
self.
might could help you out with that. I know some people that know him. I could get a copy. If I'm going to Comic-Con, there's some people that I could get a copy to him. I'd have to have a copy, an extra copy.
Now, see, remember I mentioned I'm from New York. What we say in New York, right there. Right. When it comes to business and all that, don't nothing happen. No, nothing get done without somebody knows a guy.
Right.
Fortunately, I know a guy. I'll tell you one thing. One of the conversations we had at the last convention we went to last summer at the Rio was with Garrett Wang.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, Garrett's
great guy. I told him, I promised Garrett that once the book was published, I would get a copy to him.
He'll probably be there at the Rio. I'm sure he will. He's always.
Yep. So the second book, once it goes into pre-order, I think what I want to do is get it. I'm working with a new publisher, and I want to get it done as quickly as I can and get a copy to Garrett. because
Another person I would get as well would be LeVar Burton. That'd be a great.
Oh yeah,
LeVar
we
was
got to
awesome,
meet.
I believe.
We got to meet LeVar and Jonathan Frakes at the left. I'll tell you, what a smooth dude, man.
Frakes is cool, man.
He's very, very cool.
And still got the Riker beard too, man.
There you go. And see, this to me, talking about the people we've met and the conversations we've had, this to me means way more than a replica communicator,
right?
Or some other collectible,
right,
that I might pick up. We've got a couple.
Or what do you call it?
Memorabilia. There's the good word. There's the word I'm looking for. Connections mean more to me than memorabilia, which, by the way, we have found, Paula and I, and this is going to be like a shameless shout out for some commercial shout out for friends of ours. There's a company that always has a display at the conventions, at the official Trek conventions. The company is called Volante Design.
What is that about? What was that?
They design and create clothing, not just, and they do other franchises other than Star Trek and stuff. They do some really cool Assassin's Creed stuff. So there's that. But they produce beautiful Trek themed outdoor wear, jackets, coats,
that's cool.
Vests and shirts and different things. We've got, I don't even want to tell you how much we've spent on Volante. Now, full disclosure, their clothing, their products are not cheap, but I'm telling you, worth every penny. There's absolutely fantastic. I got last convention we went to, I got a beautiful black leather jacket modeled after Section 31.
Oh, nice.
It is so slick.
I like those jackets they wore in the Picard season 3, the kind of relaxed leather jackets.
Yep.
Those were cool too.
Yeah. Volante makes those as well.
Oh, they do. Wow.
They do, and they are really, really top quality design materials, workmanship. Absolutely fantastic. Cool. And it's clothing that, yes, it recalls Star Trek. Somebody who kind of knows what they're looking at. Say, hey, that's like from the episode or from the
but it's not a replica. It's more like for dress outdoor.
Exactly. It's cool. Not a replica. It is themed after whatever. It's really, and we've worn them out and about on the town. That's so. So Volante, if you happen to be at a convention, swing by Volante Design. Tell them Glen and Paula. Volante Design. Tell them Glen and Paula sent you.
Check that out. I'll be down there.
Absolutely.
Well, quick before we end the interview, Glen, I wanted to thank you first off for joining us on the broadcast today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And if y'all want to go check out Glen's book, his first book, because the next one will be in pre-order, go to glentrekbook.com. It's right down there on the screen. It'll be on the audio. That's glentrekbook.com. Glen, it's a pleasure having you on the show today, man.
Absolutely a pleasure. Absolutely a blast, Owen. See you soon.
Live long and prosper, brother. You have a good day.